Welcome to Enlightened Game with Slim Sir, as he takes the lessons he learned from the streets, commonly known as the game, and applies them to everyday life, helping everyday people win the game of life, focusing on relationships, money, and the winner's lifestyle. This podcast will turn any chump into a champ. So if you're ready, let the game begin. And now, your host, the most valuable player himself, Slim Sir.
Welcome. I am your host, Slim Sir, and this is my audio notebook. We're going to be continuing the conversation about my new book, How to Pimp Life and Karma, and why I wrote the book. It's crazy because, when we look at children in school, and I said this before, but when we look at children in school, we expect them to advance grades every year. But somehow in our lives, we think it's okay to stay on one level. It's somehow no longer acceptable to advance grades or levels of life every year. Well, if life is like a test, shouldn't we, look at it like a school in some way and advance grades every year? I mean, think about that. How foolish are we to stay on the first level of the game for decades, never advancing our game, never advancing to higher levels of the game, and then to glorify the first level of the game as if that's all that exists of the game. How foolish is that? So there are some people who say, well, what Slim is teaching is not the pimping. And I ask and I challenge you to define what pimping is. When you pimping, you're trying to get the best and the most out of a female, out of a bitch, right? Well, if life is a bitch and I'm teaching you to get the best and the most out of life, then I'm teaching you pimping, but I'm teaching you a higher level of the pimping. Now, I'm not going to judge anybody on level number one, but, someone who's in the first grade can't logically criticize someone who is professing or is a professor. See, what happens is when we glorify the lower level of the game and you try to judge people who are advancing their game, what you do is you keep the game stagnant. The game has to grow. Aren't you tired of seeing the same old shit in the game and hearing the same old slang and lingo that existed in the 60s and in the 70s? We're in 2020, right? And we should understand the game on a higher level than those who understood it in the 70s and in the 60s and in the 50s. That was a different time. Those people had different degrees of knowledge. You understand? We live in 2020 where we could take the pimping to a higher level. It's not acceptable to stay on level one of the game without advancing a grade every year. Anyway, in How to Pimp Life and Karma, We talk about money. You see, in the pimp game, you know, the objective is what? To get the best and the most money out of a female. And so the whole lifestyle, when you look at it, you know, you get enamored, and it's what's the word I'm looking for? Seductive. The lifestyle, you know, the cars, the homes, the money, the women, the power, right? And that's seductive. It's very tempting. But you're looking at the expense side of the game. See? You're not looking, you're looking at the money side. You're getting money. You're not thinking about the expenses that you have to pay. So, not knowing how to deal with money, a lot of pimps retired broke. I'm trying to be sensitive with my words because I know how sensitive of a subject this is. But you can't talk about the pimping unless you're talking about money. They go hand in hand in conversation. And if a pimp is wants the best and the most out of everything, that means he wants the best and the most money. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's totally okay. But when you get the money, you have to pimp on the money. You see, in every game, there are rules. And there are rules in the money game. And if you don't obey the rules of the money game, guess what? You're not going to win the money game. You're not going to have any money. The very first rule of money that I teach in How to Pimp Life and Karma is to pay yourself first. Now, I want you to think about this. You know, when you hear about the pimp, and they always talking about how a bitch paid them, right? And how they living beautiful, right? Fancy clothes, fancy jewelry, homes, cars, right? Their women looking beautiful. But a lot of times those pimps didn't pay themselves first. And what happens is, after the female paid them, they paid all the bills, didn't pay themselves first, and 9 times out of 10, they didn't have any money left because they broke the first rule of money. See, you can't respect the rules of pimping and disrespect the rules of money, because money and pimping are tied together. And so since you don't learn that on the first level of the game, then if you want to be successful with money, you have to advance to a higher level of the game, right? And start pimping on businesses, pimping on products and services, and understand and learn the principles of money. One of those principles is saving 10% of what you earn. Pay yourself first and save 10% of what you earn. If you could go and talk to a lot of these older pimps that retired and ask them what they would have done different, they will tell you they wish they had paid themselves first and saved at least 10%, right? You know, it's unfortunate to have made all of that money, and when it's time to retire, or God forbid you get in trouble, you don't have no money to get out of trouble. You don't have no money, right? Because we don't pay ourselves first. I want you to break that habit. And every time you get some money, pay yourself first. The female is paying you first. Why shouldn't you pay yourself first? You're going to pay your bills. You're going to pay the bills that she racks up. You're going to buy food, clothing, cars, jewelry. You're going to pay everybody else. See, you're not the pimping if you don't pay yourself first. If you pay everybody but yourself, all you are is a pimp to her, but you a hoe to everybody else. See? Think about that. If you're paying everything else and you're not paying yourself first, you're only a pimp to the female, but you're a hoe to everybody else because you're paying out that money without paying yourself first. See? And so you don't learn that on the first level of the game. None of those dudes teach you that. They teach you a surefire way, fast track to go to prison. They don't teach you life skills. They don't teach you that you should love your life. They don't teach you that the laws of cause and effect. Damn it, if you do this, this will happen. And that's why a lot of us, we get so caught up in the imagery and the pictures and the idea of the pimping. And then we get caught up in a situation, right, that you didn't expect, you didn't want, you didn't see coming. Because you don't understand the laws of cause and effect. Now, if you took those same principles of the pimping, and instead of pimping a bitch, why not pimp a book? That's what I did. Pimped books. That's what Pimpin' Kid did. Pimped books. All right, books may not be your thing. Whatever your thing is, how about you pimp on it by getting the best and the most from it? See? And when you're getting the best and most from it, how about paying yourself first and saving 10% of what you earn? If you just follow that guidance, you will be ahead of many people that retired broke in the past and many people who are in the game right now that are broke as hell. Just because you see people flashing money and looking good don't mean that they have money. You understand? So we have to obey the rules of money if we want to have money. In order for you to obey the rules of money, you have to learn the rules of money. Okay? How you learn these rules is by going to slimsir.com and downloading a copy of How to Pimp Life and Karma. You learn the game as I teach it. And the game as I teach it is broken down into 3 areas: the rules of life, the rules of karma, and the rules of money. And when you can master those 3 areas, you are pretty much a master of the game. So before you criticize and condemn and complain and say that, oh, he's not teaching you the pimping, why don't you just go back over these last few series when I'm talking about how to pimp life and karma? And this is just the tip of the iceberg. You know, I really want you to read it so you can get in depth and study what we're saying. I'm not chastising those on level 1, but I'm trying to let you know that there are higher levels of the game that exist than level 1. And this is that higher level game. And it cannot be denied. It is irrefutable. But the only way you're going to know that is if you invest the $10 to download your copy right now and read it straight to your phone, from your phone right now. And once you start elevating how you perceive the game, how you see the game, then you can start playing the game at a higher level, and as a result, start winning at a higher level. Anyway, you got to know how to handle that money, man. Don't matter how much money you make if you're not saving it and investing. And so you can't talk about the pimping if you're not talking about saving and investing. Anyway, I got to go. But go to slimsir.com, put your email in, and start getting some of these free emails. And download a copy of How to Pimp Life and Karma. And share these podcasts if you think they're good for you and for other people. Thank you. Peace.